One of the things that we thought was really important when we're talking about streamlining pathways to accelerate adult learner progress in and through our programs and on into the workforce is to kind of give you a little bit of a framework. So you saw the LMI and the importance for identifying what are some priority pathways that you can emphasize this work in. If for some reason you're not able to do all of the pathways that you offer at your institution, there are opportunities to identify some priority pathways, and certainly the labor market information can help you identify where some of those priorities are. One of the other key elements for how you might accelerate an adult learner's path through your institution and on into the workforce or into transfer if you're at a community college is thinking about what that alignment between non-credit and credit looks like. We talked just briefly a little bit about this when we met in December, but worth elevating again here the importance of this, that leaders in post-secondary have to look at how they identify and eliminate silos, which end up becoming barriers for those adult learners, particularly as they look to make transitions between non-degree programs, non-credit programs, and into credit programs. So the more that you can create alignments between those, the better off the learners are going to be. And we shared some examples of this before, but this is, again, a kind of a stark reminder of why this is so important. What you'll see here is that when you have non-credit and credit as two separate things, which again, it's very likely to continue being the different things at many institutions, sometimes there are program differences, and that can lead to challenges when it comes to structure, credit designation, and even value determination. Oh, that's offered for non-credit. It's not offered at the same level as we would do it for credit. That's some of the language that may be used. The result actually, though, is in many cases you're duplicating efforts. And so you want to minimize how often that happens. We talk a little bit about stakeholder differences, or at least we view them as differences, so that we end up with different student experiences, and even some of the faculty and staff that could or should be shared between credit and non-credit may not, in fact, end up being shared. And so there, in some cases, are either real or in some cases just perceived stratification that this has a different value determination than that. And so the third thing that you see there is operational differences. And this goes to how we award financial aid and funding support, as well as how we offer supports for students and even the access to technology that students may have. There are some institutions where a student who's a non-credit student may not get an ID card, which means that they aren't able to access services at the library or at a tutoring center or other services that are associated. That makes them feel less than, and we want to try to minimize that as much as possible. We shared a little bit about this framework before, but just a quick reminder that there are 5 elements when you want to align credit and non-credit that you should be keeping in mind. And these are things that you can think about emphasizing either all of them or pieces of them in your proposals as you move forward for how to better serve adult learners. So treating all students as students, just kind of beginning where I just ended with that last slide. Making sure that all of your students feel like they are valued parts of your college community, building those pathways between non-credit and credit credentials, and being able to clearly communicate that to the students, and making sure that advising knows this as well. This is probably one of the more challenging ones, and that's aligning departments and governance so that there are shared decisions that are made, and it also has the added benefit of removing some of that either real or perceived stratification, as well as making sure that folks who may be in non-credit see and feel valued. And especially since in many cases, they're able to provide access directly to the workforce, where in some credit departments, it's a little bit longer journey. So creating that alignment can actually open doors for the learners. Making programs credit worthy or credit based. We'll talk a little bit more about this when it comes to learning recognition, but when you do this, then it kind of eliminates the need for folks to justify and to go through a lot of the credit for prior learning that we'll talk about here in a moment, or even prior learning assessments. And then the last one is removing those barriers to transition, like financial barriers, which are some of the hugest barriers. Registration barriers can also be an issue, especially if non-credit assigns one student ID number and the credit side of an institution assigns a different student ID number. Using unique identifiers, one for the student at the institution period rather than different numbers, is certainly of value.